Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Admiral and the Klingon. I am, of course, Caliph, son of Kolar, and with me is Admiral Xena of the USS Victory. And we are from Defense Force United, the outpost in the Klingon Federation sector border. So, welcome. You also know me as Calibus Rand, so let's and go with the story. Go with the story. Suspend disbelief as you would. Hey, Taco Cat, Marky Mark, and of course our resident troll, Dexter. So we got 2 episodes for you tonight. As always, we always have at least 2 episodes.
Yep.
And let's put this up on the board. When the bow breaks. You know, I thought we were at an age in scientific advancement that we could help people with these infernal making process, because we've actually created people. The eugenics wars, we've got there had to be something else that they can do. But nonetheless, the Enterprise finds this planet that has been cloaked, and the cloaking thing has made people infertile.
Yes.
And these people are so brazen that they just come right on out. We'd like some of your children.
The smart children. The special children.
So they can propagate their race. Okay. The troll is back. There he is.
Yeah.
No, we cannot. This is a Star Trek show. So, now we're still in season 1, so Star Trek is still kind of fumbling around and finding itself. I'm not even going to defend the seasons, because you got to remember, now this is coming straight off of TOS. They've had this nice little break, and now they're introducing this whole new crew. Gene Roddenberry is pretty much at the helm of this. Yeah. So we don't get we don't get the start of season 4 where everything really starts to take off.
Yeah.
And it seems that Star Trek, for some reason, it takes them a couple of seasons to kind of get things kind of down, and then they start really getting into some issues, and then boom, every Star Trek show is like that. I think the last season of Discovery is pretty worth watching. I can say that for you.
It is.
Picard, season 1, I kind of went through it. Season 2, flush. Season 3, God, I was feeling it. You know what I mean? I was really into that.
Now, do you think with Picard, it being, season 3, I mean, considering they were all together for all the years and, the Next Gen, and then, they did, those movies, why do you think it took until the 3rd season of Picard for it to actually come into place?
Oh, well, Patrick Stewart wasn't going to do it. Well, he wasn't going to do it because, Trump was coming into office, and he was like, we've got all this. And people say, you don't know Star Trek, because Star Trek has always put real world things. And the only problem with it at the time was we didn't have social media like we do back then. We are bombarded 24/7 with the news of who, what, when, how, and the biased people who put it out there. And depending on what you keep watching, the algorithm throws that at you 24/7. So, you know what I mean? And then, of course, Paramount was having problems with Viacom. And, they're trying to vie for power. Who's going to take control of Star Trek? What we're going to do with Star Trek, which Universal now had the Star Trek exhibit. Looked awesome.
Yes.
I am a huge fan of Galaxy's Edge. It's one of my favorite places on this planet. But I can tell you now, if someone said, "Hey, kid, you want to go see the Bridge of the Enterprise?" It's not my Enterprise. It's Enterprise Deep. I'd still go.
Yeah, agreed.
The action that those people had on that bridge at Universal Studios was like mind-blowing. So I was really disappointed because I missed out on the Star Trek Hotel. The year that I'm saving up to go, I'm going to go on my birthday. They close it down a month before my birthday. And of course, I'm depending on that last week's check to get there. So now I miss out. And there's no other real Star Trek attractions except for Creation Con that does thing in Vegas and everywhere else and all this other stuff. So I missed out on that. But that whole thing, it wasn't working. That season 2 was just, oh my God, no. What the hell? I love season 3 because you don't need seasons 1 or 2 to kind of really feel this season. Well, you should watch season 1 just to kind of get a grasp of it because that's it data. So 1 and 3 definitely for season Picard. Voyager again didn't really take off to me until its 3rd season. DS9, when Worf steps off onto the promenade, that's when it took off for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I went back and watched the other ones. Right now, Bishop and Simon are screaming. I didn't care for DS9 until Worf got there. I'm sorry. I just didn't. TNG, they started exploring, of course, all the Klingon stuff, and it just kept getting better and better and better and better. So, but this episode, I kept thinking to myself, and this, of course, is hindsight. This came out February 13th, 1988.
Yeah.
I haven't even graduated high school yet. I got a year to go. So this show with this, it was influential for me. But this particular episode, when I was rewatching it going, wait a minute now, we've created people. Why wouldn't we just do some scans and rework some stuff and you're okay now? You know what I mean? Or show them how to recreate life in a petri dish or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't know. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, considering how advanced they were, I was a little surprised that the Enterprise is there for like a hot minute, and within pretty much 3-4 days, discovered it was the ozone layer that was making the people unfurl. I mean, y'all are able to cloak a planet. And with y'all scientists there, it did not come across to y'all. Y'all couldn't figure out that, hey, there's something going on with that. And, for these people to just kidnap, these 6-7 kids and, hey, we're just going to go ahead and trade, you're going to have to do it because if not, I'm going to push the Enterprise, which they did, 3 days out. And, when you come back and, think about it, I'm going to push you so far back that by the time you come back, these kids is going to be grandparents, is like, Picard just, we're going to talk it out. No, you took my kids. And I thought that was a little, I don't know, just I'm not saying just go right on in, because Lord knows if they were able to push the Enterprise that far, what would have happened. But I think Picard was just a little too calm, just considering that these kids was kidnapped the way they were from the Enterprise. But that's just my opinion with that. Now, another episode where Wesley is kind of the man in the episode. He's one of the gifted. There he is. There you go, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley.
Where they took him. He's in charge. He's the custodian. Smart for them to do a little mutiny on their end with the kids. We're not going to eat, and, I thought that was intelligent for him to do that. I wonder what more he could have done. But, yeah, the episode was okay. I remembered not necessarily the whole episode, but, when I rewatched it the other day, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah. And again, you underutilize this guerrilla tactics security officer that you had. Now, remember, Tasha at the time was supposed to be this badass.
Yeah.
She had survived the rape gangs and all this other stuff of her home world. And, she was a fighter. She was ready to do all this stuff. Send her down with a security detail. You could have wiped all of them out.
Yep.
Stunned them and all, got the kids, and then if he would have threw us, we would have all had the kids with us. And again, you have the most powerful, you have the flagship of the Federation. And I get it. Picard is great for his diplomacy and blah, 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 blah. My thing that, though, I've always said Picard to me is a great negotiator.
Yes.
Hands down. I don't want to be on a negotiator ship. I don't want to talk my way out of anything. I want to fight. Give me Kirk. Give me Cisco. Hell, give me Archer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All this talk, and we'll find another way around it. Not for it.
Do you think he was like that because he wasn't a parent? Because I kind of feel like, with, Wesley being taken, Crusher there, and we actually have seen that in another episode with, Wesley having issues on another planet, that I kind of feel like that Crusher would have been like, look, that's my kid. I'm going to go in with all guns blazing. And, even though he's not, that friendly with kids, even though the little girl gave him a little flower at the end, he still, it's kids, they stole them, and you just want to talk it out. I'm sorry. I kind of disagree with that a little bit.
Yeah. And again, we don't know what we're going to do with this warrior. We're going to have him over here.
We barely saw him in this episode. He was always in the background. He might have said about 3 or 4 lines, Mr. Worf. So, at this point, he's just, a Klingon on the ship.
Yeah, pretty much. They said that Patrick Stewart used to walk around with this little box and would stand on the box next to Riker because he was really shorter than Riker. That was like a little thing that went around at the time. And then we get to see the little girl. Oh, I would have lit him up. I'm sorry. I would have lit him up.
Yeah.
I have no patience for that mess. No. And it seems like that every species, like we had on our last episode, we talked about the 001, 0001. the binary code. It was either yes or no. So they were like, it's better to go ahead and do it and then face your anger than just ask you. I don't know. It seems like that would seem to be a recurring theme. We'll just go ahead and do stuff and then see what they say later after the fact, after we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mr. Roddenberry thought that process through, but it was definitely something that I keep saying is like a little bit of a pattern here. Why are we always doing that?
Yeah. Let's talk it out and hope it comes my way. Sometimes you do need to go in there with those guns blazing. I'm not necessarily saying that should have happened here, but Picard was just a little too calm for me.
Always, because he's French, but he's British. Look, so we have,
but overall, I'm glad I, watched the episode again. I haven't truly seen the whole episode since it was on, probably on, in February of '88, but it was still enough for me to remember, the guest stars. I can't say that about every episode I've seen of Star Trek, but this one, I remember some of the stuff that was going on. So that means I had to like a little bit of it back then.
Well, even again, these, this was the '80s was the heyday. The '80s and the early '90s, the heyday of syndicated TV and everything else. And and this was definitely a premiere show that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted to see that. It was its thing. We didn't have Star Wars was over, right? Or no? Getting to be over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all we really did have was Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
So the next episode.
Yep. Which one is that?
Home Soil.
Home Soil. Now, when I look up this episode, it said it was actually the second lowest number of viewers for season 1. And when I watched it kind of reminded me a little bit of Wrath of Khan. A little bit, the underlying story of this one a little bit. With the terraforming of the colony, they don't have Khan coming in and, trying to steal the Genesis. But, kind of same thing. You got these scientists, there, and they're trying to transform the planet so it could be labelable sometime in the near future. And, eventually they find these little, crystals. And, all their life forms, or they're not life forms. The one guy kind of figure out they kind of are. And, I'm still going to do it. I want this planet for this.
That's the story of humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. We came here. Oh, what? There's some indigenous life here.
Yep.
Well, they're not really life. It's not really life anyway. Just get rid of it. It's always that way. I think the Japanese did it best with Godzilla. Every time that we disturb nature, nature has a way of taking it back. You know what I mean? It's just so weird because I looked at that and it reminded me of The Devil in the Dark. With that lava creature with the horde up.
Oh, that was bad.
The silicon eggs, it's just, it's just one of those things. But yeah, and then life.
Yeah. finds a way.
Yeah, right. Um, Amazing that again, it takes the explorers,
Mm,
with military might to come in and actually do the real research and everything else. Because, you know, for me, if I'm going to terraform a planet, I want to make sure that there's nothing remotely near being a life form on the planet.
yep,
I mean, like Carol Marcus said, there can't be so much as a microbe or the whole show's off.
yep.
And then here we go.
Mhm.
But again, ladies and gentlemen, this is hindsight. This is all the stuff accumulated over all this, our Star Trek knowledge, our movie knowledge, and now we're going back and looking at stuff, going, well, that wasn't too smart, was it?
Well, every episode is not going to be, an A plus. I mean, there's only a few shows that at least I've seen. Then I can say, hey, you know, bam, Game of Thrones. I'm sorry, just about every episode was just badass, you know. But Star Trek, is longer, 20, 24, 28 episodes per season. You're going to have your really good ones. Yeah, I love Jurassic Park. And can't wait to the next movie, Dexter. And you're going to have really good episodes, and then you're going to have some episodes where it's like, okay, what were you thinking? And I do agree with you, Calibus. The first few seasons of next gen, you can tell that they're working it. They're doing their best. Sometimes it's a hit and miss, but I don't mind that a little bit. As long as the whole series wasn't a hit and miss, and I don't think that's the case when it comes to the
Well, no, I mean, all in all, you could. I mean, I will still double down on this, and I've said it. I would prefer to watch this than the crap that I see right now that's on TV. I am watching Korean dramas because we have no good TV.
show.
And when I say that I am watching Korean dramas, I'm watching these comedies, I'm watching all these things. And because there's nothing good on American TV,
Yeah.
it's crap, and you have to go back to something old like this and really enjoy it. My kids took my Angel seasons 1 through whatever it was. They've got that now, so they're rewatching stuff from their childhood, and because there's nothing good on TV. And this at the time, I wouldn't say it was wholesome, but it was morality TV.
Yeah.
It was still standing up for the little guy. It was still a hope for humanity to come together as one people and be better.
Yeah.
And we don't have that now. We have, let evil win, sell your soul to the devil and pay the consequences later TV. And it's just so crazy. But at least with this, you have a steady moral compass. You have hope,
Yeah.
And I love that. I would double down. I would say that even with some of the, save the Mandalorian, but that I'm biased. I would still take this over anything that Save the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I could go back and keep watching, especially once we leave here and we get into DS9 and then you get into that Dominion War. Please. I haven't seen anything that can touch it yet. Nothing.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned DS9. I hate to admit, when it was on, all those many years ago for the first time, I didn't like it.
Yeah, right?
I thought it was boring. I like the idea of being on a spaceship and exploring, where I didn't care for the idea that everything was just happening right here on the Deep Space Nine near this wormhole, and you saw the same people over and over and over again, the same races. I started rewatching it probably last summer, and I need to get back on, finish watching where I left off. And I have to admit, I've learned to appreciate DS9 now more than when I did then. Because when it comes to next gen, the original series, Voyager, haven't seen Enterprise in a while, so I need to revisit that. I can
Me
honestly
too.
say that I've pretty much seen every episode. But when it came to DS9, because I felt a little bored with it, I know I haven't seen every episode. So it's actually nice and fresh to see a show that, overall that I still love, and is almost sometimes I'm watching it for the first
No, I totally agree with you. That's what I feel about this. When we talked about it, and you were like, can we do the thing? And then of course we had Bo on, and Bo would give us all the backstories behind certain scenes. And I'm sorry that Vonda and I don't have that information for you.
time.
But I can, from a point of view of, I can deal with this. I like this. I love watching the old stuff because it's, for me, it's safer.
Yeah.
It's safer. It's at a time where I knew what was what. I didn't have to question this. There was none of this um uh the politics of today so in your face.
Yeah.
I know Star Trek always was talking about the policies of the time, but they didn't ram it down your throat like everybody does. It's not so right here where you can't turn and look away, because I see it every day. I don't want to do it. I want to be entertained.
Hmm.
If you want to get me to think, disguise it where I'm not thinking about it and I see it and go, ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You know, um, they still did that. You know, I mean, now for me, now some of it's a little heavy handed, and I'm like, ooh, okay. Like Riker doing what he was doing and
Yeah.
nipple all out and whatnot. And I'm like, ooh, okay, here, Riker.
Yeah. And hope.
I love this. I mean, I would, and to be honest with you, I can't wait to rewatch Voyager because I have The Caretaker on audiobook. And I want to go back and I kind of want to see, Janeway's progression because I love Janeway.
Oh yeah.
I loved her from the moment she shut down Harry Kim and she told him it's not crunch time yet, Mr. Kim. I was like, damn, all right, girl, go ahead. You know what I mean? I like that. They brought Seven of Nine in. I immediately knew, oh, you brought her in for eye candy.
Oh yeah.
Because every shot was near this woman's crotch. I
Hmm.
don't care how you want to frame it. Every shot, I mean, God, yeah. You're trying to get younger viewers on here, and I get it. Now you want to throw a beautiful woman at them. I get that. But Star Trek is above that.
Yeah.
We don't have to be spoon-fed like Star Wars fans. We can tell a story when we see one.
True.
So I've always said that, Star Trek has that intelligence to it. You know what I mean? And some people can't follow it.
Yeah.
I mean, J.J. Abrams obviously could not. When you start transporting people from planet to planet and whatnot.
I like that movie. Come on.
The first movie was okay, but you have to admit that from a bullet to another bullet, come on. But don't get me wrong. I thought that the updated version was cool. I would have loved to seen a guy with a little bit more color play Khan in the second one.
Yeah.
The third one with Elba in it was questionable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was that thing about something that the Federation had did wrong. and how these people were, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
kind of dug that storyline. But I mean, you could say that I just like my little safety net, you know, where I can put Enterprise, TOS, but I can't even do that because Enterprise looks better than TOS, and it shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
TOS, Enterprise should look a little bit more crummier as far as design goes.
Yeah.
So I've never really liked that, but I can do my TOS all the way up to Voyager and be fine with it. You know what I mean? I can do Picard season 1 and season 3 and be fine with it. I have not. I watched Voyager. I mean, Discovery for the first 2 seasons because Pike came in and then they killed. They said Pike's not coming back. Stop watching.
Yeah.
I was done. I suffered through a lot just to get to that point, and then you bring somebody in I liked, took him away, and now we got Strange New Worlds, and I'm itching, and I cannot wait for you and I to really kind of talk about those episodes when they drop.
Definitely.
But and look, Marky Mark goes, 7 of 9 is still around. Yeah, but she old though.
I mean, she still looks good, you know.
Oh, I like her as the Ranger. You know what I mean? I liked her as that Ranger. I love a woman who's carrying a gun on her hip. You know what I mean? And she can walk in the room and everybody go, okay, we're gonna have to watch her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that. You got Taco Cat saying 2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the soundtrack to that too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
soundtrack was nice.
Yes. All of Star Trek soundtracks and music was really cool. Quite a few years ago, Mark and I went to Chrysler Hall and we saw the music of Star Trek, and they had the orchestra out there, and they had the film, parts of the episodes and films on stage, and just sitting there and just hearing the music, and oh man, they need to come back again.
I've only been to a couple of the concerts like that. But I never get to see the big event where they put the movie behind it when they do it.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
Matter of fact, I met Jedi Joe at the last. Well, this was 4 or 5 years ago. They did that one where they had the Justice League. At the end of it, they did the Wonder Woman.
Oh.
The woman came out with her little, electric violin, and I loved it. And like you said, there's something soothing about some of that music, especially if it's Star Wars or Star Trek, where you can sit back.
Yeah.
Because I don't care for the motion picture soundtrack that much, but the rest of the soundtracks, even 5, I can sit there, put those on, and just zone out and just be good with them,
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder, like I said, with motion picture because it was all
weird
special effects and lights, and and then that long fanfare.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, get to the ship. Can we please? But all in all, I recommend, if you haven't seen some of these in a long time, go back and rewatch them because it's a safe time.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about all the madness that's out there right now. I'm still waiting for a good when we get to the Klingon. This is TNG sparked all that. We got to see them being more than what they were.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't wait to touch on it as soon as we get there. Do you have any final words?
No, just, everyone that's watching, we appreciate you, and definitely, rewatch it. I mean, you don't necessarily have to start from season 1, episode 1. You can even start by just popping in and Googling and finding your favorite episodes, and kind of go from there. I mean, that's what I started to do when I started to rewatch DS9. I think the Sci-Fi Channel had a couple of good episodes that I watched, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a good episode. And the one with Cisco when he was aging, going getting stuck. I can't remember the name of that episode. Going back with his Jake. I mean, it's one of my favorite episodes. It was just great. And I got excited when I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and rewatch it again. And that's kind of how I started with The Assigned. So, even if you don't want to sit down and watch all, I guess, 24, 26 episodes of season one, you can always start by just popping a few. And once that memory comes back, then maybe go ahead and rewatch it from the first season.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things that you need to do, and get back into some real television writing from a time where, it wasn't all about identity politics and everything else. It was just trying to tell you a decent story and give you some type of real hope. So with that, we shall try to be back within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Or so, depending on our schedules, and give you the next 2 episodes. I could do that whole Spock thing, but I will just simply say, Kapla.